This is the first of my rides from the book Great British Bike Rides by Dave Barter, and this one's called Norfolk and the Fens. Being the Fens, I don't expect it to be particularly hilly. We're just about to hit possibly the only significant hill in the entire day, and it's 79 miles, described on Dave's suffering scale as moderate, which is actually the easiest on the 4-point scale. Weather is set to be like it is now, so all in all, possibly an ideal day for cycling. This route captures the essence of Norfolk in a single loop. You'll discover the hills, yes there are a couple, revel in the flat bits and ride along the coast, and turn away from the sea to the spin-along tree-lined roads along expansive arable flatland reclaimed in the name of food. Norfolk offers all the ingredients of a full English cycling experience, with no need for accoutrements to pep it up. Although we couldn't resist just one, a foot ferry across the River Bure, and he does stress in the book to check beforehand that it's running. It's a good job I did, because today it isn't. Just means turning left in the previous village and then joining the route again a little bit further on, crossing the river in another little village. Or sometimes I do wonder how roads and lanes got their name. I haven't seen a sign for this one yet, hope I do, but it's on my Garmin as Lion's Mouth. How on earth do you get a name like that? The magnificent gate lodge of Felbrick Hall.
Felbrick Hall was built in stages beginning in Tudor times and completed centuries later, before its bequest to the National Trust in 1969. Sitting in 520 acres of woodland and waymarked trails, it's one of the most elegant houses in East Anglia and includes a wonderful large walled garden.
The hedgerows around here are absolutely full of poppies. It's absolutely beautiful. So we're 15 miles in, and I have to say it's been a delight. Apart from that first testy 12% hill near the start, it's been little lanes like this nearly all the way, and the sun's come out. So it's my kind of ride really, very quiet. Not a lot of traffic, and just as I say it, there's a car coming. And yeah, very serene and calming. Beautiful. Thank you. And what do you find at the end of Black Horse Road? You'd expect a pub. Very fine looking pub, but it's called the Goat. unfortunately it's a bit too early for me, so we'll give it a miss. So that village was called Buxton with Llamas, and I didn't see a single llama. Poor show. So this is the River Bure, crossing over it, and this is the river that the ferry crosses back over later, that I'll be missing out. I'm now trying to find the end of the ferry this side of the river, rather than find the route further up the other side of Horning. I thought I'd come into Horning, because it seems like a nice little place. It'd be pity to miss it just because the ferry wasn't working.
Well, I'm glad I made the effort to cycle into Horning, as I found this beautiful spot for my lunch, the Ferry Inn. Over there, just 20 or so yards away, is where I would have caught the foot ferry if it had been running. A very novel way of taking your dog out and about, although I'm not sure it does much for the dog's need to exercise, so they will still need to take it for a walk when they get home.
That was a very nice ploughman's lunch, turned into a cyclist lunch. But I do recommend, rather than try and rejoin the route further along the main road that I was on, to actually drive down to the river, particularly if it's around lunchtime, because it's a cracking little spot for lunch. So we're now in typical Norfolk fenland, so a very flat landscape. So when it gets a bit windy, there's no escape from it. There's one or two hedgerows here. Quite often you'll get long distances without any hedges and it gets really windy. So not too bad here. We're now just approaching 40 miles, so just at the halfway point of the ride. If anyone ever tells you that this route is a pile of shite, then don't believe them. It's just that. We've now just turned off the faster roads, the B roads, and we're back on some nice little lanes, but still flat. And there's that angry looking cloud over there, which hopefully will disappear very quickly, because everywhere else off to my right in particular is looking good. Another thing you'll often see in places like this, rural areas in our country, which I think is wonderful, and that is here, got these plants for sale, and there's nobody here. It probably belongs to that farmhouse over there, and as you can see, the rusty little money tin. It's what we call an honesty box, and you take whatever you want and you put your money in the tin and off you go, and you're trusted not to steal it. I think it's great. I've seen it in plenty of places where you'll get things like freshly made homemade jam, eggs, all manner of things, and it's part of a tradition in our country that a lot of people who just live in cities and don't get to the rural areas much don't even see and appreciate. Blimey. I'm sure if I ducked, I would have got under that. Often wonder that with tandems, because it's not twice the weight of one bike, but you've got twice the power of one person. So is it easier on a tandem? Answers on a postcard. And every now and again you suddenly come across a beautiful little spot like this on the side of the road. So peaceful. Nice to see in amongst all the modern wind turbines an actual proper old-fashioned windmill.
This is actually called horsey wind pump, not windmill, as it was a drainage machine. There was no mill here at all. There's been a drainage mill here since the early 1700s. The current one is the third or fourth to exist here, and the current horsey wind pump was built in 1912 and has endured a dramatic history since then. It survived floods, a lightning strike, a collapse, storms, and gale force winds.
Here we are, the only reason we cycle, as we know, cake and coffee, and my favourite, scone, jam and butter. In a fantastic cafe. We've just now reached the coast. This is called the Dunes Cafe, which is obviously a bit of a clue because the other side of these dunes is the sea. And we've got 20 miles left approximately all the way back to Cromer along the coast.
One thing you do need to be aware of when cycling next to sand dunes in the UK is that the road will often have wind-blown sand all over it. So if you haven't got the right tyres, you need to be pretty careful to avoid a tumble. Haysborough Lighthouse is the oldest working light in East Anglia and the only independently run lighthouse in Great Britain. Built in 1790, it was originally one of a pair after 70 ships and 600 men were lost off the coast here in a terrible storm. The tower is 85 foot tall and the lantern is 134 foot above sea level. It was saved as a working light by the local community, and it's maintained and operated entirely by voluntary contributions.
We're now on probably the street that had the least imagination applied when naming it. Maybe it was the first ever street, who knows? And finally we make it to the ocean. Beautiful sight. And the weather just helping. This is Walcott Beach behind me. There's something calming about the sea. I don't know what it is. Beautiful. And really part of why this ride, although not challenging hills wise, it just has such a wide variety of terrain. And like any great British seaside holiday, you see an ice cream van, you've got to have one. All I need now is a fish and chips, and I've got the set. Another windmill. Wow, that's spectacular. That's a beauty. You can actually let it out and stay in there. Gives a slightly different slant to Airbnb. Fantastic. A little look at the view, I think. Some hardy souls braving it in that water. Wow. Good luck to you.
This is a memorial to the many brave Royal Engineer bomb disposal personnel who were killed while clearing British landmines off the Norfolk coast between 1944 and 1953. So people died as a consequence of the Second World War long after it ended in 1945.
Now we're back on the coast. There's actually a few hills, because although people think of sea level, not all the coast in this country is at sea level. The roads are up and down quite often, just like here, so we are getting a little bit of climbing going. And here we are back in Cromer. So that was the Great British Bike Rides, Norfolk and the Fens. I hope you enjoyed watching it, because I certainly enjoyed cycling it. It was an interesting route, split up very neatly into three. The leafy lanes at the start, followed by the flatlands, the broads and the fens, and then onto the coast. And look out for more of these rides from the book on the channel, coming soon. Please, as usual, give a big thumbs up down below and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so. I'd be grateful if you did that. All it remains for me to say is keep eating your cake. You need it for your fuel. Happy cycling, and I'll see you soon.